Hi, I'm Larry Watson.
Hi, I'm John DeMakis.
We've created a sports show that goes beyond the box score to bring you personal stories of real people and not just final statistics.
It's a unique approach to the old games we love.
This is a show of raw emotions, vivid memories, and interviews you'll see nowhere else.
This is where sports and life intersect.
This is the Ballpark Sports Lounge. Welcome into the Ballpark Sports Lounge. I'm Larry Watson.
And I'm John DeMakis.
And this today is our sports memorabilia extravaganza, a show I've been looking forward to for an awfully long time. We're going to go over a lot of these different items on the desk. But before we really get started, I want to go over one very personal item from myself, one from John, my co-host. I'll start if that's okay with you.
Please do.
Okay. Joe DiMaggio, American icon, amazing Hall of Fame baseball player. I was able to get this ball back in 1995 at a show in San Francisco. I actually still have the brochure from 1995, believe it or not. And there it is, which is pretty cool. So if you can see on there, back in 1995, I paid $150 for that baseball to have Joe sign it. But it's not the $150 to have the baseball. It's the $150 to be able to walk up to Joe DiMaggio, the icon, shake his hand, say hello to him, have him sign it for me right there. You can't put a price on that. But it gets better. While in line at the show, they had a huge sign initially when you walk in saying Joe will not sign anything in any way related to Marilyn Monroe. So we knew the deal going in. And honestly, there was no thought of that for myself at least. A guy in line, about 10 people in front of us that we'd passed, had a small envelope in his hand. And as we got closer and closer up to Mr. DiMaggio, I'd asked him, I said, well, what do you have in the envelope? Because at sports card shows, you never know what you're going to see. He opens the envelope and it's a photograph of Joe and Marilyn Monroe on their honeymoon at a small restaurant in Hawaii. And he said, this was something that a photographer took that he never picked up. Joe's never seen it. So we wove our way through line. And now there's a subplot. It's not necessarily about meeting Joe as much anymore. Now it is, oh my gosh, this woman that he loved so much and put flowers on her grave for years and years after she passed away. He's about to get something of hers he's never seen before. So we got closer up to Joe and we watched the gentleman come across. And he handed the picture to Joe and showed it to him. And Joe teared up. He'd never seen it. It was incredible to witness that moment, watching Joe DiMaggio, the icon, in that full range of emotions. You can't put a price on it. So every time I see this baseball, it's not necessarily about the autograph. For me, it's the story and that day and really seeing DiMaggio the person. That's
Absolutely.
my story.
I mean, I remember I was right with you there. And you know, the other side of, you know, my brain was thinking, what are they going to do to this guy when they pull out, when he pulls out this picture? I mean, are they going to go, all right, you're out of here, you know, get his autograph back. But yeah, it was such a great moment. And just to listen to him say, you know, I've just never seen this before. And have the guy say, well, you would have if you'd picked it up. You know, it was one of those funny moments that you're never going to see again.
And let me point out, he didn't ask Joe to sign it. He'd given it to him. One thing I didn't mention.
Right.
But yeah, you're right. They would have quickly shown him the door.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
It was incredible watching that moment. And for DiMaggio, he's probably thinking, I'm just going to a card show. You know, I'm going to sign some baseballs. They're probably going to pay me a whole lot of money. But
oh, yeah.
Lord knows, he couldn't have imagined he was going to have that moment at the show. It was incredible to witness that in person.
The other thing to think about is in 1995, Joe didn't sign very much. Very rare to get, you know, Joe DiMaggio signing autographs. And as a matter of fact, I almost didn't even get an autograph. He had to talk me into getting a ball. You know, it wasn't something that I really dropped a lot of cash to go get autographs. And he was adamant, you got to go to the show with me. and you got to get a ball. You can't walk away from Joe DiMaggio with no ball. And so, I did get the money out of the ATM, went down there and had that experience. And a lot of these moments with different pieces of memorabilia, yeah, it's great that you have that. But it's about the stories. It's about walking up there. It's shaking their hand, the experience of being around all the other people who are really excited to be there. I mean, it's unlike, any other moment. You can buy something off eBay, but you're never going to get that experience.
Right. I totally agree. What do you have?
Well, I picked up a 2010 World Series ring for the San Francisco Giants. And the reason I brought this one, it's not one that a lot of people saw in San Francisco, strangely enough. After they won that first World Series, of the three, the following year they had an event where they were giving away a World Series ring. And what they gave away was a pewter key ring of a World Championship ring. Not a lot of people were thrilled about that. And so they did learn from their mistakes. And the Fresno Grizzlies, their farm team, actually came out with this for their giveaway, which is an amazing looking ring. It's got this great setting. And I can tell you that after the blowback from that first ring giveaway of the key ring, you didn't see any more pewter rings. You saw these. And so I have one from each of their World Series wins that they gave away at the park. And I've even got a 1954 World Series replica ring as well that they gave away at the park. But so funny that it didn't actually come from the San Francisco Giants. It came from the Fresno Grizzlies. Just kind of a funny moment.
Well, the other cool thing about that is from the collectible standpoint is 40-some thousand got the pewter key ring.
Yes.
Fresno's ballpark is small, maybe 10 or 12,000.
Maybe.
And even at that, did they give out 10 or 12,000 rings? Giveaways with minor league teams, a lot of times they're sponsored by local businesses. Mm-hmm. It may have only been 4,000 or 5,000 rings. That, to me, is the ring to have.
Well, yeah, I mean, better than the other two from 12 and 4. Well, I guess it would be the year after, so 13 and 15. But yeah, I mean, this is the one that you don't see very often. When somebody says, "Oh, I got the giveaway," it's always that pewter key ring, always.
Well, for me, the other thing is beyond the ring. The box, I noticed you have Sandoval, there's Lincecum, in their Fresno uniforms, which really ties the whole thing together. Bumgarner, Sandoval, and Lincecum, you can argue with three of the most key players on that 2010 team. Here they are in their Fresno uniforms with the San Francisco Giants championship ring. Very cool.
Absolutely.
Very cool. Any idea what it's worth?
I've looked it up here and there. I'm not looking to sell the thing, but I've seen anything from $20 to $100. And, the $20 is probably without the box. I think $100 is probably a little overpriced, but it's what somebody's willing to pay for it.
Right.
So you got to get the right guy.
Well, we're going to be right back with our special guest of the night, and we're going to ask him. We're going to find out what he thinks of your ring with Joe's ball. Stick with us. Be right back.
Yeah, I know. Wait, I don't know. Yeah, you just stand up. Look at that. It's so sad.
Welcome back to the Ballpark Sports Lounge. In our studio today, our special guest, Imran Pilati.
Great to be here.
Great to have you from Rockland's True Sports Cards. But there's more than just Rockland True Sports Cards, I found out. You are living every guy's dream, man.
I am, being on this show. Yeah, I've been able to put together a 23-year real estate career in between my passions of owning baseball card shops. So when I was 21, I opened my first baseball card shop in Stockton, California, where I'm from. And 9/11 happened, and having a mall baseball card shop really didn't work out too well. So while that one went out of business, I went into real estate, built a 23-year real estate career. And about 2.5 years ago, I said, you know what, I'm really passionate. Let's do this all over again. And when I say that, it's because my wife told me after we moved from Stockton to Roseville, when we put all of our stuff into the truck, she says, now that it's in the truck, it's never going back to our house. So what do you want to do with it? And I said, what am I supposed to do with it? And she goes, I don't care. It's just not coming back to the house. And I said, well, then I'll open a shop. And she goes, I don't care. Just don't bring it back to the house. And I was like, I just got permission to open
Green
a shop.
light.
So I opened a shop in Rockland 2.5 years ago, November of 21, and it's been a great experience. And since then, I've continued my real estate journey. I own 2 title companies, one in Orlando and one in Kansas. So I work in distance from afar running those locations. But my true passion has always been sports and being able to own a shop. And we'll talk a little bit later about a second shop. But just having that as what I can do every day and have a sustainable income from this is pretty amazing. So pretty happy. That is living the dream, I guess, as you described it. Yeah. And so I'm a father. I'm 46. I had my first and only boy and child when I was 44. And we'll come full story with my origin story with all that a little bit later. But I named my son the only thing that I could name him, which is Beckett. I named my son
Nice.
not after the magazine, but inspired by. So my son is my life. My beautiful wife Jessica and I have been together for 8 years now, and having a son and being able to be an example for him through sports and passion and entrepreneurship has been really important to me. And I hope that he picks up what my dad left me, and I can leave that with him.
Does he have a favorite player that if you get him into the shop, goes to Beckett? You open a card pack, goes to Beckett. Does he have a favorite player that he really likes?
So we're fortunate enough to have a lot of variety in our shop. In fact, you've been to my shop, and we could talk about that too.
Love your shop.
And whenever it comes down to laying cards around, he loves graded cards. He loves grabbing them. They're easy for him to hold. I mean, he's 18 months, so he's grabbing the cards, and he does a lot of this, staring at the cards. I don't know what it is, but he grabs Mickey Mantle cards specifically.
Well, why wouldn't you?
He's like, well, if my name is Beckett, I should know
taste.
value.
Yes.
So this is the one that's worth the most. So he is a Mickey Mantle fan. He tends to grab Mickey Mantle. So
Interesting.
the fact that you have a Mickey Mantle signed ball here is pretty cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So you also had a radio show, I understand?
Currently do. It's on Sacktown Sports 1140 every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. In fact, you had a chance to check out the show, I heard, which is awesome. It's the only radio show in the nation live and on the air in any major media market talking about sports cards and memorabilia. So you heard of many people doing podcasts, and that can be edited. This is live on the radio. No net underneath my tightrope, and it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it. It makes me feel great to be able to talk about sports cards and give knowledge out to the audience. So it's been a few months venture now, but it's going really well. The reception has been great. So who knows? Maybe it'll go syndicated. I don't know. We'll see if we can go national with it. I would love to do it.
Well, that's a pretty tough thing to do, going without a net. You don't know what somebody's going to bring up. I mean, that's got to be a little tough sometimes.
It's only nerve-wracking if you don't know what you're doing. Right? I've been a public speaker, and I've traveled the country, did some motivational speaking. I'm a 2-time cancer survivor, so
Wow.
for me, for me, it's a lot of that motivation stuff. So I've done that, but so I'm not nervous when I go on stage. I'm not nervous when I'm in a studio. But if I don't know what a subject is, or I don't know what I'm talking about, I get pretty nervous. So don't talk to me about classic cards, because I'll just stop talking because I don't know what I'm talking about. But I think if you're going to be passionate about something or your expertise in something, then it's okay. You'll be just fine.
Now, I hear March 1st is a big day for you.
Yeah. So we've been, as I mentioned, we've been open for 2.5 years at True Sports Cards there in Rockland. And an opportunity came about to where there's a store called American Visions Gallery, and they are interested in doing a partnership. And they thought, you know what, Emery, we've seen what you've done. You've put together shows. You've done different events, and the family really liked how I did things, and said, do you want to come in and be a partner with us and take an opportunity? I said, I would love to grow the brand of True Sports, and if you're willing to make the name change, I'm willing to come in and we can partner on doing this. And they said, absolutely. So
That's at Roseville Galleria.
That's correct.
In Roseville, California.
Yep, that's right. So March March 1st, we're officially going to come in there. The store is open right now. You can go to the Galleria. It's in the old Tommy Bahama location.
Okay.
So we're right next to some small companies like Gucci and Louis Vuitton and Apple Store and Rolex. So, yeah, we'll be right there. So having that kind of foot traffic is going to be pretty incredible. To have 2 locations now, one in Roseville and one in Rockland's been. It's a great opportunity. I can't wait to take advantage of it.
I can't wait to see how it goes.
It's
Yeah,
gonna
that's
be
great.
It's going to be great.
And you also represent some athletes here along the way?
Yeah, that was by mistake.
Okay.
I'll give you the story. I was on a plane from Orlando back home to Sacramento, and it was a Virgin America, which doesn't exist anymore. It's now Alaskan Airlines, but Virgin America flight. And I see this guy walking down the aisle, and I go, I think I know who this guy is. I'm sitting in my seat, passionate sports fan. I see this guy. I go, I think that's Roger Craig from the 49ers. So, of course, he's on his way to the bathroom. He has things to do. Mm-hmm. And I stop him. Excuse me, sir. Are you Roger Craig? He says, yeah. And I said, I'm a big fan. I did the nervous fan thing.
Sure.
And then after he got done, we were waiting for our bags when we arrived in Sacramento. And I said, have you ever done a signing at a card show before? And he says, yes, I love doing them. I said, I would love to do something with you. So we exchanged numbers, and I did my first signing representing an athlete in 2017. And it went so well that Roger said, I really like you. Do you mind representing me on more than just this one? And I said, are you kidding?
And of course you said no.
And I said, let me think about this. And so that worked. And then Roger said, I need to introduce you to my friend John Taylor. And then I started working with John Taylor. And then John Taylor introduced me to this person. Next thing you know, I'm working with Rick Barry. I'm working with multiple athletes. So
Fantastic.
I represent about 7 or 8 different athletes right now. Rick Barry, Alex English, a lot of these players. I work with Willie Wilson, who played for the A's and Royals. So I've done a lot of signings. I've probably represented about 60 athletes with different signings over the years.
That's
So,
fantastic.
yeah, it's pretty cool.
Amazing.
Yeah, since 2017, it's been quite the ride. And
That's a short amount of time to do all that.
they say if you want something done, give it to a busy person.
That's right.
So the other thing I would tell you is that we have a show in May coming up, May 17th through 19th, and we have incredible guests. I know today we're focused on baseball. So besides Dennis Rodman and Johnny Manziel and besides those two, I have Vlad Guerrero Sr. coming.
Nice. I
I have Ricky Henderson coming. And we also just announced today Randy Johnson will be joining us at the show. So they're at the Roseville grounds, the fairgrounds there, May 17th through 19th.
That's great.
Yeah.
So you're representing all these athletes. What if Roger didn't have to go to the bathroom?
I would not be sitting here.
What would you be doing? Yeah.
I would not be sitting here today. So thank you, Roger Craig, for
Thank you for
thank you for
glass
letting
of
this
water.
happen.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Thank you for having to use the restroom.
That's right. What an amazing story. That is so cool.
Yeah.
That is so cool. Right place at the right time.
That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as far as collecting, when did you start? What got you started? What got you interested in collecting things?
So my father, Hassan Pilati, he's passed since. My father got me into it. I really wasn't into collecting. And my mother passed when I was 5 of cancer. She was 40 years old. I was 5 years old. And then my dad raised us as kind of a single father, myself and my sisters. And sports was the thing that he wanted me to be involved in. He felt that would keep us busy. And I like baseball and I like basketball. Those were my 2 sports. And so my dad tried to get me to collect cards, and I really wasn't interested. I just wanted to go play. Well, one day my dad saw that at Safeway in Stockton, Dave Henderson from the Oakland A's was signing autographs. Hendu himself. Mm-hmm. So on this rainy night, it had to have been like a weeknight because I remember stopping schoolwork to go do it. It was a rainy night. We run over to Safeway in Stockton, and Henderson's there signing autographs. And we're waiting in line. It had been raining. I was drenched. I was soaked, and I had this little baseball. And Hendu, as you know, had that big gap between his teeth.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he sees me standing in line. I'm 9 years old. And he goes, "Hey, little boy, come over here." And I was so scared. I was like, "Oh, I see this guy on TV." So I walk up to him, and he goes, "Don't be scared. Come over here. I've been waiting all night to meet you." Oh. And I was like, You
Wow.
did?
That's so
He
cool.
goes, yeah, I've been waiting all night to meet you, and you're finally here. And then my dad goes, yeah, Emran, he's been waiting for you. And he goes, yeah. Dave goes, yeah, Emran, I've been waiting for you this whole night. And he signed my baseball, and I was hooked. And I said, this is what I want. I love that feeling. And I didn't know till years later that he didn't know who I was. But that moment, he could have said anything or just signed it, and he did that. And I remember that. I'll never forget it. Now, my father passed a year later at the age of 44. He passed away from a liver disease. And Beckett, my son, was born when I was 44. So I feel like this is my story of continuing what my dad couldn't do.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm so passionate about what I do, is that this is part 2 of what my dad couldn't complete. So having my son named Beckett, owning a baseball card shop, and one of the things that I absolutely love is that I collect 1987 Topps. It was the card set that I collected with my father. It was the wood bordered set.
Yep, I remember that set.
And so part of this is it's very easy to get that set. It's very, very well mass produced. It's not worth a lot of money. It's probably full sets, maybe $30. Could get that. So I thought, how do I challenge myself over my lifetime? So the goal is to collect not only the entire set, but the entire set autographed by each player.
Nice.
Oh boy.
And there's 792 cards in the set. I have over 500 of them collected. So my life's mission is to try to finish that before my days are done. So that way I can make sure that was the set that my dad and I collected. And there's 2 cards. You'll love this. This is a great story. 2 cards that are nearly impossible to get signed. The first one is Dick Hauser. Dick Hauser was the manager for the Royals at the time. And Dick Hauser passed away from a brain aneurysm 3 months after that set came out. So there's only 2 known copies in the world, and we're talking about tens of thousands of dollars for those copies. So maybe one day I'll spring for that when I can afford it. The second one is Ricky Wright, who pitched for the Indians and the Texas Rangers. There was something on the back of the card that Topps printed regarding his daughter. It was some sort of, she goes to school there or something like that. And he was not happy about that. They never got permission to talk about his daughter on his card, so he absolutely refused to sign Topps cards, including that one. So trying to find that one is going to be, tough one too. But if I get 790 of the 792, I'm okay with that. But that's the life's goal, is to try to get that 792 set for my dad.
You meet him and you tell that story.
I was thinking the same
And
thing.
I bet you he
Yes.
signs that card for you.
And I'll have Beckett hold it to him. And I said, Beckett, hand him the card.
Yeah.
Beckett will throw it down and pick up a Mickey Mantle anyway. So.
Well, wherever Ricky Wright is, I didn't even heard of Ricky Wright. That's incredible. And you know what? It's
These
better.
are the stories, though, that mean something. Right?
Yes,
That's
yes,
like,
yes.
I didn't know that. It's a Marilyn Monroe story.
Yeah.
With DiMaggio. You have to go to the Fresno Grizzlies to go
Right.
get the ring. So there's a lot of stories that need to be told, and I'm glad that you have a platform for it to be told.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, we are going to take a small break. When we come back, it will be shin guards and counterfeits. Stay tuned.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
Welcome back to the Ballpark Sports Lounge. Okay, we're going to go a little bit off the side of the road now. One of the things we talked about, we had a ring, we had some baseballs. We talked about these different little things here and there. You can collect anything. So kind of an odd story with an odd collectible. I was on a camp out with my son. We're on the way back. We're way out in the woods. I don't even know what town it was. But on the way back, we passed a barn in this tiny little one-horse town, and it said, estate sale. And so I asked my son, you want to stop? We're on our way back from the camp out. We don't have to worry about time. Sure, let's go back, Dad. Fine. So a guy walks out and he sees my son and I walking up and he goes, oh, good. You guys help me take these tables out. You over there, do this, do that. So this guy puts us to work. Long story short, he had a book of scraps from some folks' vacation. And my son said, this is really cool. I've got things in here from all over the world. And I said, you want it? I said, well, I'll buy it from him. Let's get going. So I take it to the guy. And the guy says, oh, no, that's a real expensive piece. If you want that, that's going to cost you. So I'm haggling with him. And he basically said, if you want the book, you're going to have to buy something else too. He wasn't moving on his price. But if I bought more stuff, then he'd work with me. So I'm looking, I said, what am I going to buy? So he had catcher's shin guards leaning against the barn. And I said, all right, you know what? I have a little stash at home of just baseball stuff. And I said, throw in the shin guards. I'll buy the book. And the guy said, fine, okay, have a great day, guys. Fine. I threw him in the car, didn't think anything of it. Got home, took a good look at the shin guards. I'm going to hold up one. I'm going to put one down. Took a good look at the shin guards. And the name, John Blanchard, was on the side of the leather of one of the shin guards. Now, I'm a baseball geek. John Blanchard was a catcher for the New York Yankees during their title runs in the 1960s. He was not a star player. He was behind Elston Howard. He was behind Yogi Berra, which raised an eyebrow for me. Because why would a store, like an average sporting goods store, have something that said John Blanchard? Yogi Berra I could understand. Elston Howard I can understand. John Blanchard wasn't a star. So I thought, I wonder if these really belong to John Blanchard. So I did what any other self-respecting person would do. I went to Google and I typed in John Blanchard, and they looked just like these. So I will show you the front and the back. A lot of leather, well put together. And Emran, I'm going to ask you, put you on the spot. Do you think these were John Blanchard's, or do you think they came from Fred's Sporting Goods somewhere in New York?
Well,
no offense, Fred.
I'm not a shin guard expert, but I can tell you that there's no reason why it would say John Blanchard for giggles. There's a reason behind it. It's got some real wear on it, too. You've seen through the Google search that
Look just like him. Same color scheme, same everything.
Well,
a lot newer.
Whenever, obviously, not this one. Whenever you try to take an item and say, does this have the history or provenance of it being owned by a player, they do what's called photo matching. They'll look for things like a scuff or a particular nick that they could double check and see against the photo match. I think that this is one of those that inconclusive, because what'll end up happening is, although you have all the symptoms of, this wear may or may not have come from somebody that just John gave it to, and they ended up putting the wear on it themselves because there was a kid playing with it. That I think how long ago did you get these?
A little less than 2 years ago.
You remember where you stopped?
I don't even know what the name of the town was.
Okay, well,
it was
then
that's
not going to work.
It was like 4 structures.
Okay,
and an old barn.
So I was just going to say, I would love to know the history about where they got this from, because maybe the person that sold it to you had a family member that this was given to at a game. This seems like something that was used likely in a batting practice, or a bullpen session, to where it's something that they use. This doesn't look like something that would be used in a game, but more of the sense of like used in a BP session and they're catching it.
Gotcha.
That's kind of what I would look at, because the color scheme, as you said, Yankees in the 60s, having these outrageous colors probably isn't something that they would wear in a game. Maybe I'm wrong, but I would probably think that these are authentically John Blanchard's, but we don't have the provenance or the story to be able to corroborate that. But
Gotcha.
It doesn't matter. The story is better than whatever it is that you would come from this.
If the guy wasn't haggling me for $5 more, I wouldn't even have seen him.
And again, I would have been on the show.
Right.
So yeah, what a story. That's amazing.
Thank you. What's the oddest thing you've seen? You did the card shows and everything else. What's the weirdest sports thing that you've seen somebody come up and say, hey? besides the shin guards?
I had a player, and I don't want to say who the player was, but I had a player have. I'll tell you, it doesn't matter. We'll edit it out if it doesn't work out. But Roger Craig, the football player, not the baseball coach, or manager. Roger Craig, the football player, had posed in a Macy's calendar. It was a Calvin Klein or something kind of underwear. And a lady comes to the autograph signing. I was representing Roger, as I mentioned, and she rolls out this really, really big poster. And the thing had to have been 4 feet by 2 feet wide. And it's just Roger in his Calvin Klein's black and white like this posed. And she's like, "Can you sign this, please?" And Roger, biggest signature you've ever seen. I mean, if you've got enough sense to do that, you're not ashamed of much. And the guy's fit, and if I looked like that and I had a 4 foot poster of mine, I'd probably sign just as big too. So that was awkward for me, but fun for Roger and the lady that brought it.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, something else I want to get into, because, this is obviously an odd piece here. You don't see these every day. But when I mentioned the baseballs earlier,
Yeah.
DiMaggio signed baseball, Mantle signed baseball. And again, for me, it was more about the story with the DiMaggio ball. Because, and as John mentioned, you can go onto eBay and you can find a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
How common are fakes when it comes to autographed balls like these?
There was a something called Operation Bullpen that was done during the McGuire-Sosa chase, home run chase. And they were finding so many items that were being signed and faked during that time that they believed, the FBI at the time said approximately 70% of the items on the market were fake. Okay? They were finding rooms full of signed baseballs that were forged. If you go today, and at our store, we only sell things that have been authenticated by a third party, reputable third party. There are 3 that come to mind. Beckett Authentication Services, PSA DNA, and my personal favorite, because I have a relationship with the owner, his name is James Spence, so JSA, James Spence Authentication. These 3 are well known within the industry to verify and make sure that the items that you have are authentic or likely authentic. Now, it's tough when you use the word fakes, because the authentication company will not use the word fake. They'll say it's likely authentic or likely not authentic. There's only 1 or 2 times that you can use the word fakes, and the fakes mean there's no way, impossible on God's green earth, that this is real. And an example of that. So every baseball has a commissioner that's attached to it. In this case, on the DiMaggio, Bobby Brown is the commissioner on here. Okay, there was years that Bobby Brown was a commissioner. The Bart Giamatti, he was a commissioner. Bud Selig, he was a commissioner. When you see a Babe Ruth signed baseball on a Bud Selig baseball, we don't have to say it's likely not authentic. It is 100% fake, because Babe Ruth was not alive when Bud Selig was. So when you have that kind of a forgery, that's when you could say it's fake. The rest of the time, it's likely not authentic if it had the possibility of crossing over to where it made sense. So a lot of it comes with the story. Where did it come from? The provenance that comes with it. But I would tell you that by having authenticated third-party authentication on an item, that's the safest way to go. And you wouldn't believe how many pieces come into my store that the second they walk in, I go, "That's 100% fake." Well, I have a COA, I have a certificate of authenticity, and it's by some guy that printed it off of his computer. Oh, no, I really did do it. It's just not worth it. It's worth getting the investment of getting your items authenticated. We will not sell anything in our store without the authentication, so I think that that's a good practice to have when you're doing this.
Okay, so we mentioned earlier that we had a couple items John and I mentioned prior to you coming out, and we're going to get to those in just a second. But the Mantle ball, the reason it's here, let me turn that to the camera, I can see it. The reason it's here is because this was one, and we mentioned the provenance. Upper Deck did a line of these for a small period of time. Now, what I have is the ball as well as the box it came in. Let me see if I can get this open. And There was a small pouch that came with it. But Upper Deck included the certificate.
Yep.
So we saved their certificate, and then we also had the registration card.
Sure.
And all the numbers matched. So for someone that may have the set of all of these things with the baseball, how much more would that make the baseball worth if you saved all this stuff?
So
Or would it make a difference?
Until an item is authenticated, it's worth the cost of a baseball, in my opinion, right? The baseball is about $20. So until we can confirm that that's real, it might even be worth less because it's been defaced, right? So one of the things that you look at is the authentication of the actual item. So right here, if you can take a look, I'll point it to one camera and you can see if you can pick that up. There's a hologram. There's a tamper-proof hologram that's on this. And what that does is it allows it to not be taken off. If you try to take this off, it'll flake it like an eggshell and it'll break. So you could tell when it's been tampered with. If you have that along with the matching certificate, the matching numbers, and Upper Deck is a very reputable company. No issues there. The ball matches, the sticker matches, the hologram matches, that matches. This says Upper Deck was there watching Mickey Mantle sign this. So there's no doubt about that. It was done in their presence. This is 100% authentic based on everything that you have here.
Got it. So that would make the value a lot more, or would it be
went
something?
from $20 to something
Right.
higher. Right? Went from something higher. Mickey Mantle signed a lot near the end of his life.
Yeah.
He did, but he was the GOAT when he passed, right? He was the greatest of all time in a lot of, I mean, whether it's Mays or Mantle or whoever it is that you think, this guy's top 5 all time.
Yeah.
One of the most collectible that you could have out there. So I would probably put the valuation, even though with him signing a lot, this is probably somewhere in the 400 to 700 range just on that ball alone.
Wow.
Got it.
So how did you get it?
Well, interestingly enough, and I'm going to ask you if I made a good decision. Christmas 1992. Only child, mom and dad came to me and said, okay, you're 21. What do you want for Christmas? One thing. Macy's had a line of these in their men's department. And I said, I would
Because
love-
that's the best place to buy them.
Right.
That's
Right.
where I get all my
Right.
baseballs. Yeah.
So, but they had them all Upper Deck, the whole thing. And I said, my gosh, I would love one of those baseballs. And my parents weren't sports fans. She said, well, which one do you want? And so I said, well, let me go down there and see what they have. And she goes, okay, all right. So go down, Reggie Jackson, Mickey Mantle, Ted Williams. And I said, oh my gosh, this is tough. 3 outfield. I mean, if it was a pitcher, an outfielder, 3 outfielders, 3 famous Hall of Famers. I said, well, Mickey, and to me, was the icon. And I've been wanting a Ted Williams ball ever since.
Yeah.
So I don't know
We
if I
have
made
them
the,
at the store.
I don't know if I made the right call or
The
not.
wish doesn't, you have to be a wish much longer.
But that's where it came from. It was under the tree, and
But did your
and so
mom
I've had
know
it ever
who
since.
it was for baseball at the time? Did she know these names?
She knew the name.
Okay.
But not,
So let me ask you this question. If she was there without you, which one would she have picked?
oh gosh, who knows?
It would have been Mickey Mantle.
Probably.
Because the name,
Yeah, probably.
right?
Icon.
More than the
She
others.
would
Yeah.
have,
Absolutely.
yeah, she would have
Yeah.
picked it. So when somebody has crossed over into past the sports people and into pop icon lore, if you held out 3 names, Ted Williams, Mickey Mantle, Reggie Jackson, who would you want mom for your son? She would have picked Mickey Mantle
Probably Mickey.
anyways.
Especially growing up in that era.
There you go.
And that probably Mickey.
He
So-
probably played with John Blanchard.
I think he did
Maybe we
play
could
with.
have asked him.
I think they were teammates.
Yeah.
Any idea on the ring? Can we see the ring again, John?
Oh, sure.
Any idea on the ring? If these are collectible, if you've seen these before, have they been around?
Yeah, these replica rings have been a part of the fan experience over the last few years. The fact that the Giants did 2010, 2012, and 2014. Heavy.
Yeah.
I'd probably say it's worth nothing, John. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
I would say this is well made, and they were giving it out at the game. Is
They
that
were
right?
giveaways. Yeah.
Fresno.
in Fresno.
You
of all
had to
places.
go to Fresno or eBay.
So very rare picking it up in person. Just kidding, Fresno. So I would I'd probably say, John, you'd mentioned maybe as low as 20, maybe as high as
I've seen them 20
100.
to 100.
My guess is probably, because it's replica, if somebody came into my store and wanted to sell me that, it's not, we don't really carry that kind of stuff, but I know of it. It's probably $60 to $80. You were right on your number. 10,000? I don't think so. Not only in dollars, but I don't think that's how many of the distribution was. They probably had first 2,500 fans or something like that. So it's probably far less distribution than the 10,000. It's probably more like 2,500 to 5,000 or less. And the Johns of the world aren't going to sell it anyways because you have the story behind it.
Yeah.
So it rarely comes back on market to sell. Somebody would say, it's a lot like shows that you see on channels where they go, if that's all it's worth, I'd rather just keep it.
Right.
So I think, John, you're going to own this for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
There you go.
But, this was one of those unique times where they hadn't won a World Series in San Francisco before. And so you think back to that time. And I remember that last at bat and holding my kids saying, we are never going to see them win another one for the rest of your life, because I hadn't.
And then 2 years later.
And then 2 years later, there we are again. Yeah. So that time frame, this made it even more special because we didn't think there would be another one.
And truly, it's those stories that make people want to collect. I know that one of the topics that you wanted to cover, Larry, was, what's a safe collectible bet? We'll talk about that in a bit, but I was just going to say that my answer to that later is the same answer I'll give it to you today. Collect what you want.
Oh, sure.
And if this means something to you, just like 87 Topps autograph means something to me, like Dave Henderson baseball means something to me, like the experience of Joe DiMaggio means something to you, that's the value. That's the value. So
Agreed.
hang on to that bad boy.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so one last thing I want to get into.
Yeah.
And we talk about, cards or different things that might not necessarily be legit. You probably already know this.
Those are all fake.
Yeah. Well, these are two 1952 Topps cards, or so they might appear. If you look at those, they look pretty darn close to one another as far as the edges, as far as the color, as far as the appearance. Now, one thing that I learned, though, about vintage Topps cards, I'll show you, it's called the flashlight test. Are you familiar with the flashlight test? Okay, of course you are.
Very much so.
Of course you
I
are.
would hope so.
I invented it.
I just so happen to have a flashlight here. So we're going to first take this Tukey Gilbert 1952 Topps card. Card number 61, the first Topps baseball card set. And I'm going to turn this flashlight on away from the camera and put it behind it. Lights on. Can't see it. Right? Okay. Now we're going to take the other 1952 Topps card. Greatest of all time, Mr. Willie Mays. And we're going to take the flashlight. We're going to put it right behind it. Uh-oh.
See right through it.
Willie's a fake. Sorry, fake.
That's fake. That's fake. I told you that before you put the flashlight on.
So for anyone that has the old vintage cards, if somebody comes up to you and says, hey, I've got a 52 Willie Mays, grab a flashlight. And would you even entertain an offer for an older vintage card, a high-line older vintage card, without it being authenticated?
Yeah.
You would? Okay.
I would, but as you, there are symptoms here. And which camera do you want me to point out here? I'll go to this one. So right from the beginning, it starts with the actual gloss of it. There is no gloss in 1952. So when you have glossy paper like this, and I can see it right there in the camera, it's really, the paper didn't even exist in 52. So that's the first sign. 2, it's shiny, and you could see that this is actually like a computer-generated print. Go ahead and zoom right in on that. Yeah. So it's a computer-generated print. It doesn't have much of a sharpness to it. So right away, I already know it's fake. But You don't understand, Imran, as they bring it into my shop. My grandpa had this since he was a little boy. No, he didn't. It was probably printed in the last 5 years. And grandpa told you a story to just make you be quiet. And that's the kind of stuff that it's really hard because people had a theory that they've had this valuable thing. And to have somebody like me at 46 tell them that their grandpa didn't have a real thing. Yeah. It's shattering dreams. Yeah. It's a lot like when people come in with I'm 46, as I mentioned, so I collected through the late 80s and early 90s, and they come in and say, yeah, I collected since I was a kid. And I go, how old are you? And they go, 45. And I go, have you collected since? They go, no, I know exactly what you have, and it's worthless. It's worthless. And it's really hard to tell those stories, but one of the things that you need to do as a sports memorabilia dealer is tell the truth, right? No matter how painful it is. So this is the kind of stuff that we want to make sure that we tell the truth to our customers and to other collectors, so that way they don't get duped ever again.
All right. Well, coming up, we're going to break open a box of 2023 Stadium Club cards. It's sealed. They're real. And you'll see what's in there in just a second. We'll be right back.
If you love them enough to crawl into a play place to get them to come down, then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat to make sure they're in the right car seat.
Welcome back to the Ballpark Sports Lounge. Now is the time that, well, maybe some of you are waiting for. We're going to open up a current box of Stadium Club. Now, these are called blaster boxes.
Correct.
Are there boxes bigger than these that Stadium Club puts out?
Yeah, that's considered a retail blaster box. It's one of those that you'll find at a Target or a Walmart or any kind of retail store. The intention of this is to go to the masses. So while there are valuable cards in here, they're not as valuable or as frequently valuable as ones that are considered hobby boxes, where you go into a shop like mine and have a bigger box that's a little bit more expensive but has a better chance of getting really great cards. So as an example, a hobby box might have, I don't know, somewhere around 2 autographs in a box.
Okay.
It's going to run you about $150 as an example. But a box like that's far less expensive, but the chances of getting an autograph card significantly drop.
So we're not going to get anything good.
Well, let's hope, right? So
right.
let's see what happens.
Let's open it up here and we'll see. This is great television here. They certainly sealed it up well. Kudos to Topps. All right, let's see what we got here. So there's a box and there's packs. So one of the things, Emran, I wanted to ask you, I heard a story, and you can have to confirm or deny. Was it true that people were going into the stores and they were like squeezing the packs? They were looking for a thickness or a special card? Where were people searching the packs?
You're making it sound like that was a past tense thing.
Okay.
There's videos on YouTube, etc., to where you can see people with little scales. And they'll go and they'll put it on the shelf.
Oh, wow.
And don't try this at home, folks. That's not a good thing to do. And they're just weighing. So they're hoping to have, there's pieces of autograph jersey patches in there, and they weigh 0.1 grams more than other boxes. So what companies like Topps have done is put dummy cards in there.
Sure.
So that way everything weighs the same.
Gotcha.
So that way you can't tell. But people still think that they're trying to game the system, and it doesn't work.
Well,
I think you two should split them up and kind of.
I think we have a lot of cards
now,
here.
Stadium Club. This is 2023 Stadium Club. This is one of the.
4 for you.
This is one of the best photography cards that you can get. Stadium Club has been known. They first came out in '91. Do you remember Brian Taylor, who pitched for the
Yankees?
For the Yankees,
yes.
That was the first year that '91 Stadium Club came out, and Brian Taylor was the chase back then. 2 years later, there was a guy by the name of Derek Jeter that was more of a sure thing.
He's pretty good.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
So I'm gonna
Everybody has a different way of opening
out.
it too, and so John made the decision. I'm going to play-by-play this. John made the decision to open one pack and fan them out.
Yeah.
And what Larry's doing is instead just stacking them all together and kind of going through them.
I got a friend of yours.
Hey, Will the Thrill. Show the camera.
Little Will Clark for the Giants.
How about that? Will Clark. You know, one of the neat things about this set, Imran and I were talking off camera, as many products as there are out today, and I couldn't imagine how many card companies there are now, especially with baseball. It's neat when you have a set that embraces not just the players of today, but the players of yesterday, like Will Clark. This is probably, I'm going to grab this from John. This looks like Will Clark, 80s, I'd say.
Oh, I think so.
It has kind of that look from that time frame. So you can get a picture that Topps probably took, 30 whatever years ago. And now they're putting it out on a card today. It's pretty cool.
He don't look like that now.
No, it's little different. So the reason I opened it this way, not that you did it wrong. So I don't have any jersey cards
There
here.
we go.
Everything is the same.
You could kind of tell by the thickness.
You can
No,
kind of tell by
don't.
the thickness. Okay, all right, fair enough. So let's see. I'm going to just look at. So John, you've got a whole bunch of Hall of Fame players here.
Yeah.
So you have Joe Morgan. We'll hold up Joe Morgan. We have Hank Aaron, the Hammer. Put those together. And a whole bunch of other guys.
Oh, yeah.
And this is actually a great example of what we were talking about. When it comes to photography, this is a guy, he's sitting in his locker. So when you think of a baseball card, you think, okay, it's somebody in action. They're swinging a bat. They're throwing a baseball. This is one of the cool things about this set, is you have just a guy hanging out in front of his locker. Here's a really super neat card. This one's going to be fun. Who at home can recognize who that is? I'll hold it steady for the camera if you can zoom in, if it's possible. The one and
There he
only,
is. Yep.
George Herman Ruth. Anytime you get a Babe Ruth card, and it could be mass-produced into infinity, as I'm sure this set probably was, but it's Babe Ruth. And you know, the neat thing about that card is I've never seen that picture before. So Lord knows, I mean, I guess Topps owns all these images. Lord knows where Topps
Yeah.
got that
well,
from.
looking at it, it looks colorized and
Right, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's just Babe
No
the
autograph
wheel,
on
behind the
that
wheel. No autograph.
Although I do have an autographed Babe Ruth baseball on a Bud Selig baseball, so
Oh,
it's a joke. I don't. That's fake.
Right next
That's
to
a
Abraham
fake.
Lincoln's
Yes,
autograph,
exactly.
Babe Ruth, that's really cool. And it looks like this Hank Aaron is a special. We had two Hank Aarons, so we have something going on here. We got two. Emmer, I'm going to have to ask your help on this
Yep.
one.
So what happens is the one in your right hand, camera left, is going to be the regular card. And then the one on your left hand, camera right, is going to be a sepia version. So it's basically just like an insert. So it's the one in your left hand is more rare than the other one. So it's kind of a chase card of it.
That's pretty cool. All right, so it wasn't a terrible box. Let me see what else we have. I haven't even looked through my cards
You
yet.
haven't, and you'll like it as a Giants fan.
Right, we're going to have
I
to
snuck
spread
in
these
and
out a little
look.
bit. Robbie Ray, who the Giants just picked up, we'll hold that one there.
Former
which is
Cy
kinda
Young.
Cool. Former Cy Young. Ryan Mountcastle, the Orioles. Oh, look at this picture.
There you go.
that's a beautiful
Holy
one.
cow.
That was a good day.
If you can zoom in on this one.
That's a good day.
That was a very good day. Right there. That was taken in 2012. That was the moment the Giants won the World Series against the Detroit Tigers. Sergio Romo, number 54 in the picture, had just gotten the third out on a called third strike, and Buster's on his way out to give him a Buster hug, and they put it on the card. That's pretty darn cool.
That's what I love about Stadium Club's photography. It's well known for moments like that, and you captured one.
That's cool. Let me see if we have Dallas Garcia. Hey, Brandon Crawford, for all you Giants fans out there, another well-known Giant there. Turn that here.
From
We get
Pleasanton.
It's right,
Yeah,
Pleasanton.
local boy.
Johnny Bench, Hall of Fame player. Oh, what is this here?
That's an insert.
Okay, so we have a very odd-shaped
It's called die cut.
die-cut card, Yordan Alvarez of the Houston Astros, big hitter. And you'll notice if you look at it, I'll steal a card from behind. It's cut a little differently. You see the card shining through behind it. So that's pretty cool. Dodger, we're going to skip.
We just ripped this up.
Carlton Fisk, another Hall of Famer. And you know, I can't confirm nor deny, but that sure for all the world
You know what that's from.
looks like game from 1975 World
75.
Series. the famous home run off of the left field foul pole. And again, home run from Topps with that picture on their card. What a wonderful set of photographs.
That's a good card.
Okay, Logan Webb of the Giants.
Rockland's own.
Rockland's own. And I believe we have another insert card here. I noticed that the Stadium Club is in red
That's
versus
correct.
in
That's
silver.
a ruby. Yeah, that's a more rare version of that card.
That's cool. And again, great photography. Thinking outside the box where, more than half the picture's blurry, but you see Logan, he's delivering the pitch. Really cool. Let's see what else we have here. So it looks like we have another insert card. Ronald Acuna of the Braves, star player and
Reigning MVP.
reigning MVP. So
Ooh, that's going to be interesting because with Ohtani now in the National League, who's going to be the NL MVP?
They're going to be battling it out for the next
for
10
one role,
years,
yeah,
probably.
for one.
So overall, I love the pictures. And this is something I also wanted to bring up. This is a brand new set, just came out.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a new collector and you say, you know what, I think there's joy to be had here. I think there may be money to be had here. If you have a guy that says, hey, Emron, I got $100. What's the best thing I can do to get myself started collecting?
I'm going to ask two questions. I'm going to assume that you and John are new collectors in this example. John, who's your favorite player
My favorite player ever, or
that you would want to collect?
I'd probably say, Brandon Crawford. I would
There you go.
say is probably my.
He's your
my
guy,
favorite.
right?
Yeah.
And for you, Larry?
Gosh, so many. Jack Clark as a kid, Will Clark as a middle adult.
And Kristen Clark, the basketball player?
You can never
Keep it
go
Clark.
wrong with the Clarks. Buster,
And they both wore 22.
They both wore 22.
Yeah.
Buster.
So if you had a
any one of
choice.
those three.
So if you had one.
Let's take Buster. He
Okay.
was the most recent.
So what I would tell you to do with your $100 is spend 50 on it, getting the very best Buster Posey card you can get, getting the very best Brandon Crawford cards that you can get. That's probably going to have an autograph on it or something. And then I would go and I would buy what you just opened, a blaster box. These run anywhere from $20 to $30.
Yeah.
You had a good time opening it. You might end up getting something great. So it's the best of both worlds. You're able to open something for the endorphins of the rush of opening something and seeing what you get, with a safety net of knowing that you have exactly what you wanted because you spent that money on a card or a player that you want. That's what I would tell people to do. As far as investments are concerned, it's just one of those other things where buy what you like, because whether the thing goes up or down, it's the player, the team, it's what you love to collect.
Absolutely.
Emron Pilati.
Hey,
Fantastic.
It's been great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Folks, check him out. True Sports Cards in Rockland. Wonderful night. Thank you so much.
yeah, absolutely. Feel free to follow us on Instagram at True Sports Cards or the website, truesportscards.com. And anytime you guys want me here, I'm here for you.
Thanks for coming. We're going
Thank
to take
you.
you up on that.
Done.
Thank you so much for coming.
Sure thing.
Folks, see you next time on the Ballpark Lounge.